Yar, avast and ahoy, me mateys! Today we sail upon the seven seas and discuss the world of piracy. So come aboard with me hardy crew and sail on this pod ship, the Beach View.
I love it. You rhymed and everything. Oh my goodness, that was perfect. That was wonderful. Good job.
Yeah, so that's our podcast and topic. What are your thoughts on piracy?
Ooh, piracy. Well, I'm a bit divided on it. I can't say I'm super divided on it because I lean toward let's say more controversial take in that I don't feel like piracy is that big of a deal. Okay. It sounds terrible, okay? And I very much support, artists and, creators and all that. I really do. And I guess this is more specific to digital piracy. And that's probably the most common in my life that I know of or may not partake in. So to me, it is controversial though, because it just has a lot of room for interpretation, you know?
Right, yeah. And this is something that's been argued about online for decades now.
Yes, years and years and years, yeah. How do you feel?
So yeah, I'm on the it's not that big of a deal side. Like, yeah, in most cases it doesn't really meaningfully hurt sales.
Right.
Like, especially with like bigger stuff, produced by big companies, or with something like movies where they're making most of their money in the initial theatrical run.
Right.
And then any piracy would be eating into the home release.
Yeah.
Which is usually not where movies make their money.
That's exactly how I feel. And I mean, I know you get into some circumstances where it is very harmful, but I think by and large, when we're talking about, internet piracy or digital piracy with things like music and movies and maybe some software, whatever, I'm kind of with you. Like, I don't feel like big corporations, record labels, even like artists are really hurting because of people downloading illegally. I think we need to take a look at the law and do a complete overhaul, in my opinion. But you do get into those situations where it's like, well, how do you draw the line? At what point is it bad? For me as a consumer, and I know I've probably spoken a lot about this, but yeah, I download music. I used to download so much music, like me and everybody else I knew back in the late, 1999, Napster came out. Dude, I don't know what we did before Napster because we downloaded so much music. And then when Napster got shut down, they had other ones that kind of fixed some of the problems that Napster had as far as the illegality of it. LimeWire, BearShare, that's all we did when we were like young teenagers is like you get home from school and you like download music and burn it onto a CD. Like that was that's all we did. I don't feel like that hurt anybody, to be honest. I mean, and I feel like from the artist's point of view, don't you want to share your art? Like, don't you want to share your music? Don't you want more people to listen to it? Because the people who really love it are going to go buy it. They're not just going to get a pirated, version of it. They're going to go buy it,
Yeah, well, and that's, music especially is an interesting case because of how prevalent piracy used to be and how it's not totally gone, but it's basically dead because streaming is,
yeah,
effectively legalized piracy.
yes.
It is, like, from the consumer standpoint, basically the same thing, where you just get it for free.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for free stuff. You know me. I still like even the last couple years, and for me, this goes into the gray area because one of the arguments is that people will pirate, and specific to music or movies or stuff like that, people will pirate it online because it's not necessarily set up in a way that's convenient for consumers. And in my case, that is my whole reasoning now of why I download music, is because, and I think I've talked about this before too, when I fly, I need to have music on because I'm very afraid of flying. And so I have to have music that I can listen to on the airplane, and I can't listen to streaming services on the plane unless they have Wi-Fi, but one, I'm not going to pay for Wi-Fi. I already pay enough for my plane ticket. And two, some planes don't offer Wi-Fi. So in order to combat my fear of flying, I play music the entire time on my noise canceling headphones to drown out the sound of the aircraft or crying babies or whatever. My whole point is I've had to download music, and I went so far as to using MP3 converters where you go get a YouTube video, plug it into the
Yep.
MP3 converter and download the song, which is not very convenient, but I'm not going to go pay all this money to download all this music for an 8-hour plane ride. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to me, it's economical, and that gets into a whole other part of this, social classes and who can afford what,
But yeah, that thing you brought up about convenience, that's a large part of why video game piracy has gone down in the past 10 or so years.
Yeah, really.
That just digital downloads became way more ubiquitous and usually way easier than going through the trouble to pirate something. Like, you have to be in the know to, be able to pirate games, usually.
Yeah.
Whereas with,
I can imagine.
the storefront that are used for buying games are really convenient.
Yeah.
And, if you're interested in playing games on a computer or console, especially if you're trying to pirate console games, that is much more difficult. But, on a computer, you just go on a website and download something. But,
right.
You're gonna know about the storefronts before you know about websites and know, if they're safe or not.
Yeah, exactly. And the other part of it is, so what I was saying about convenience is it's kind of a double-edged sword, because as I already said, it's not necessarily convenient to pirate stuff. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's harder, but it goes down to the cost, because when I was in grad school, I was living by myself. I was in grad school, I was working full time. I had no money. All my money went to pay for my housing and my food and stuff and tuition, okay? And I didn't have any money. I lived by myself. I had a computer, but what else did I have? I'm not going to go purchase movies, to watch. And I didn't have cable. I didn't have streaming, none of that. So me and Travis would always watch pirated movies. Sometimes they were terrible quality, but that was kind of funny, it just entertained us that they were so bad. But that's what we did because we didn't want to spend any money. It was right after Hurricane Katrina. Things were still pretty bad economically around here. And so that's what we did. We pirated movies, and it was fun. But it did get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pirate any more movies. It kind of sucks, But I don't feel like anybody's losing out in this scenario. I mean, do you?
Yeah, well, it depends on, the, what you're pirating specifically. There are
Yeah.
certainly really, independent creators
Yeah.
that, could arguably hurt. There's also the argument that, this is a classic argument. People you're stealing from the artist, and you're no, it's not theft because of how digital goods work.
Yeah.
That, you can just copy it effectively infinite times, so you're not if you steal something from a store, that means that no one else can buy that. But if you steal a digital file, that doesn't hurt anybody else's ability to buy it. And then they further argue, well, if they're pirating it, they weren't ever going to buy it anyways.
Right.
So it's not actually a lost sale.
Yeah. I mean, you can argue this up and down, but I totally agree with that. I definitely agree that I don't feel like, as long as I am not using it for personal monetary gain, I don't think I'm doing anything bad. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
not reselling it in any way. I'm not like, you know, taking somebody's art and passing it off as my own. Like, it is just for personal use. And to me, I'm going, I wasn't gonna buy it anyway. Like, I don't pay for like I don't pay for that kind of stuff. I don't feel like I should have to pay for it. Like, as artists, and like you're saying, you have these indie artists that, might not necessarily have the huge backing or resources that other artists have. And then a lot of times I'll support that kind of artist because I want to support that kind of artist and see them do, more things, right? I mean, I think it just kind of, I have a conscience about it sometimes. Like, and other times I'm just like, you know what? I don't think I should have to pay all this money to get music when, like, all these corporations and a lot of these famous artists have tons and tons and tons of money already, you know?
Yeah, and
I just feel like, why not share it with the world?
if you're looking at like music specifically, and any artist signed to a major label, regardless of like, or even some of the like lower tier labels, regardless of how popular or wealthy they were not making a ton of money off of back in the day album sales. Nowadays, streaming,
Yeah,
most of that goes to the label,
right.
and they make most of their money off of merchandise, live shows, and especially like merchandise sales at live shows, and that's not something you can pirate. So it was super common, for people to argue basically back in the day, like, oh, like, I go to their live shows, that's how I support them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna worry about whether or not I'm paying for their CD, I'll just pirate it.
Yeah, and then the other part of it is if I'm, having easy access to their music without paying for it, but I pass it along to like, five other people I introduce them to music that I not, they may not have already known, then you have more fans, you have more support, you have more people who would potentially pay to go see you live or, pay for merchandise, etc. So I think it's kind of like you want people to be exposed to your art, but I don't feel like you have to be greedy about it. I know that's like, I know it's easy to say because I'm not the one creating it, but
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a win-win situation, for the artist. The only people who aren't getting richer from every single time somebody downloads a song or a movie are the executives. And I'm kind of like going, I really don't care. Like, I, I hate to sound that way because I really do support artists and I want, you know, I want creators to be able to make money off of what they produced. But at the same time, I'm just going like, come on, y'all. Like, share it with the masses. Like, to me, it's definitely an economical thing. And another thing is, so I think it's called, is it soft lifting or soft loading? I've read about this before, where it's basically like you share software or even like you're sharing your login with other people for
Oh, okay.
different
Yeah, that
things.
sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that is ridiculous. If I pay, for instance, okay, if I pay for Netflix, like I have like a bunch of people who use my Netflix account. It does get inconvenient because sometimes it'll say too many devices are streaming right now and I can't use it myself. But I'm like going, I'm already paying for it. Why not let other people mooch off of mine? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like, I don't care about that. It's already being paid for. Netflix already makes millions of dollars. Okay. I don't think that me sharing it with two other people is going to impact Netflix.
Right, and like a lot of streaming services are starting to crack down on that
Which I think
recently.
is totally ridiculous. And I think it's classist. Like, in my, I understand where they're coming from as a corporation. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, some people can't afford that. And their price has gone up every year for the past several years. And some people can't afford that. Like, why are you keeping their entertainment from them? you know?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's like, I don't know. That one I don't think is at all piracy because you are paying for it, It's just you're
Yes.
sharing it with someone else. I don't see how that's much different from them like coming over to your house and watching it with you.
Exactly. That's what I don't understand. Or how do you know I'm not at, my mom's house on my Netflix account watching it there. You know what I mean? Like when we travel, I'll sign into my Netflix account, or, usually I'll just bring my tablet or something with me. But how do you know that's not me at somebody else's house? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get this. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. I really do. And I know I saw that Netflix was rolling out in certain countries. I think it was like two different countries. There was, I forget which ones they were, but they were like Spanish speaking countries. They were rolling out like I guess a program where they were offering like you pay this much plus an extra whatever to share with four other households, or I don't know, whatever it was, probably wasn't four, but with other households. And so they're expecting people to like voluntarily sign up for this pilot program that like if you share your password, like you can share it with this many households for this much more money. And I'm going like, why would anybody volunteer to do that? Like, I
Because
wouldn't.
they start cracking down on it if you don't pay for it.
I guess so, but if that's the case, I'd be like, well, sorry guys, you had a good run watching my Netflix.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna pay any more. Like, I don't know. I just feel like everything costs so much money. Like everything. And in the grand scheme of things, Netflix doesn't cost that much. Like if we're talking about Netflix in particular, doesn't cost that much per month. But when you add up all the other expenses you have, and that's an extra expense, it's really easy to cut it. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, if Netflix goes up to $19.99, I'm cutting it. I'm not paying that much. Like I just,
Yep.
I just think they're getting greedy. They're getting greedy. But at the same time, I'm like, when are y'all coming out with more content? So you really can't satisfy me, I guess. But I don't know. So I don't think that's a crime. If
No.
it is, come arrest me, because
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna keep
wouldn't
committing the crime.
volunteer that kind of information.
Yeah. No.
I plead the fifth.
Oh, I was totally joking about everything I just said. By the way, I pay for my music.
Jokingly.
Yeah. That's all a joke.
Going to go rob a bank. Jokingly.
Right. Yeah. Come
Ladies
on
and
now.
gentlemen of the jury, it was a joke.
Yeah. We love to joke on this podcast. It's very much fun. And we're speaking in hypotheticals, of course. Yeah. Yeah, but you know what I mean. I don't feel like, that kind of piracy is really piracy at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that piracy. I mean, I get why companies don't like it and are trying to crack down on it, but it's being paid for. That's not
Right. Well, from their point of view, it's a form of piracy and it's not okay. And I don't know. I think with everything, well, not everything, there's a lot of things that are like open source now, a lot of room for sharing and collaboration. I'm kind of like, maybe these companies ought to like get on board with this kind of stuff, like, I don't know, work together, make your stuff cheaper for the masses who want to still have entertainment. Like people, it's always been that way where people want to be able to watch what everybody else is watching and talking about. Like, I don't know if you remember like being in school as a kid and everybody's talking about watching this one show. It made you want to go watch that one show, Or when we were in school, HBO and Showtime were like, I guess the better off households had those because you had to pay for them.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a thing like, oh, I don't have HBO, I can't watch that, I feel like, I don't know, I just think things should be available to everyone. Sharing is caring and all that. But
Yeah, especially with art.
yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. And we can get into, going the other way when you're talking about, there are other forms of piracy that aren't just digital. Sometimes you can get into areas where it's like not okay. But I read something recently about how really the first kind of act of music piracy was back in Mozart's day, and how he went to the Sistine Chapel and only 3 people were allowed to have the sheet music for this one composer. And he listened to it being performed, went home, and basically like transcribed from memory.
How was
And then
that
a couple
piracy?
Well, listen, a couple days later, he went back to, and I don't know, this is what I read. I don't know how accurate this is. Anyway, a couple days later, he went back to the Sistine Chapel and like basically proofread his own transcription of sheet music and then like shared it with everybody. So like all these people had like the sheet music. So you're talking about like sharing something with the masses way back in Mozart's day. Like, and it was music. I just think that was like hilarious because it's like even back then, you know, an amazing composer was like, you know what? I think other people should have this too. you know?
I don't think that counts as piracy. Like, that's transcription. That's the same as writing down someone's speech.
Well,
Like,
but that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. Like, if, like, I don't see that as piracy, but at the time, it was only allowed for the owners of this piece, right? And he, like, took it, basically stole it, you know, and shared it. And so I don't think that's piracy at all,
that,
but
I
that's,
that's not stealing. Like, if you hear someone sing a song and then you go around singing that song, you haven't stolen their song.
but for the sole purpose of like sharing, you know what I mean? Like the owners of that music were like, no, we paid for this. This is ours. You can't have it. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I just I see the comparison. I just think it's a different thing.
Well, I mean, I read about it specifically, like about music piracy, but I thought
Yeah.
that was hilarious because I'm like, dude, even back in the day, I don't even know when was Mozart around, 1500s, okay?
Isn't he 1800s?
I don't know.
Okay, late 1700s.
Okay, I was off.
1756 to 1791.
I was just off a few hundred years, you know? But anyway, a few hundred years ago,
I was off
okay?
about 50, so
Yeah, well, you're much better at that. Yeah. Yeah. I always think everybody's in the 1500s. I don't know. But anyway, I just thought that was really hilarious. But there's definitely, and I think for my background in journalism, I went to school for journalism in public relations. I really enjoyed the ethics classes that I had, ethics in the media, and we went through a lot of, things about piracy and the different like ethical dilemmas. And the funny thing is that like in the classes, and you have these different schools of thought, right? These different groups of ethical, I guess, what do you call it? Like your way of viewing things,
yeah.
but you tend to,
Virtue ethics,
yes,
consequentialism, or
right,
deontology.
right, exactly. So
Pick
it was
one.
kind of like, oh, I have to pick one. Okay.
Yes.
Um, I can't. It's so hard for me because I have this tendency to like go, oh, I see that side. Oh, I see that side too.
Yeah.
So which one is that? but,
I don't
but
know.
what I found really interesting in that class is that you tend to have these kind of groups of like certain people think this way, certain people think this way, and it's largely divided. And to me, that was kind of eye-opening for me that like people can see that this may be wrong, but they think it's wrong because of this, or it may be right and they think it's right because of this or that, So I don't know. I thought that was interesting, just the way different people make ethical decisions based on, sharing. I like to say sharing, even the terminology I use, instead of stealing someone else's work, you know? So anyway, that to me was like, I really enjoyed going through the ethical stuff.
Yeah. But I think, the stealing versus sharing thing, I think with this case in particular, the music thing,
Yeah.
I think the advent of recording as a technology changes, like, what that is.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
absolutely.
know. Because to me, like, you don't create an object when, like, you're not recording music. There's not a
Yes.
thing that can be sold, that, music is ephemeral if it's not recorded.
Yeah, I like that. That's very true. Because say you have, a written book, right? That's an object.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that somebody created. It's somebody's intellectual property there, as well as, it's a book. So if you don't buy that book, okay, you can still share it though, right? You can still pass it along to somebody else. It's kind of like, I don't know. And that's a whole other part of piracy that people talk about. And that's really more copyright infringement, I guess you would say, which same thing. But like all the digital copies of books that are out, you know, that was a big deal back in the day before you had all these sites that shared, digital copies of books. So that was a huge thing. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting one because I'm like, yeah, if I can like get a digital copy, or even I borrow a digital copy from the library, what's the difference? What's the difference? And that's not illegal, right? Why is that not illegal?
uh, so it's basically because it's tracked, and I believe there's scarcity. I've never digitally borrowed a book, but like, most of those systems require no one else to have it checked out. Am I right about that?
Yes, that is true because sometimes, because I borrow digital copies of books from our library pretty often and to read on my Kindle or on my phone. And you have to wait a lot of times. Like there might be five digital copies of the book, which I don't understand that at all. And they may all be checked out. And so I'll have to get on the wait list and they'll let me know when a copy's available. And you still have to check them out as if you did like an actual book from the library. Like you have up to, you could check it out for 14 days or 21 days. And then your copy like gets returned after those days are up and it goes to the next person. And I kind of don't understand that either. Like, I mean, I understand loaning it out for a set amount of days, but what I don't understand is why can't you have unlimited copies loaned out?
Artificial scarcity for the purpose of preserving profit.
Yeah. So, but I guess I don't understand how that works. So, if a library has the rights to that digital copy from a publishing house, why does it matter if you have 5 copies or you share it 500 times,
Because if you see, oh, this book's completely checked out, you're gonna be like, well, I can either wait, or if I'm an impatient person, I'll go buy it.
Oh, I didn't think about it like that. Well, and the other thing is, if I really love a book that I read a digital copy of, I might still go out and buy the hard copy because I like rereading books,
Yeah. It's a system that doesn't make as much sense when you're not dealing with scarcity because of physical objects.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of. Like, it's a file. Why can't you just share it with 10 people at once? Like, that's the easiest thing
Another
to do.
common argument for piracy that's been going on decades is that, like, because of the nature of digital being effectively infinite and just really easily shareable and copyable, that, like, digital works different, and thus, like, we should change our systems to, fit in with digital rather than trying to keep in line with scarcity, but, like,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what that would look like, but...
Yeah. Well, I guess libraries being able to just freely hand out digital copies.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's not like you have ownership of it. They take it back,
Yeah. Well, that's what it would look like. You could go on your library's app, and it would be the same as, like, piracy. You can just download this book,
right.
download this book.
Yeah, I guess so. And, so you have other sources like Wattpad or stuff like that, or, where people share books. And I remember Stephanie Meyer, who wrote not the Vampire Diaries,
Twilight.
the other one. Twilight, thank you. Yes, I knew it was vampires. At the time, there was all this hype about, I mean, if you were like in that world, obviously, if you're interested in this, there was all this hype about Stephanie Meyer was writing this book called Midnight Sun, I think, from Edward's point of view, one of the main characters, from his point of view instead of Bella's point of view. And so we were like, me and my friend were like, oh, we got to read this. Well, somebody leaked like the first couple of chapters online. And at the time when I liked that series, I'm not afraid to admit that I liked the series. I mean, you get made fun of now, but I did like the series.
You get made fun of back in the day. I think it's come
you
around
did.
a bit. Like,
I know.
since it was common to make fun of, but I think it's come around a bit that people are less
Okay,
uh,
good. Well, I feel
about
better
that.
as a grown adult who liked the series. Yeah. So at the time, of course, I read the like leaked copies of the first couple of chapters, and I was like, oh yeah, like I can't wait to read this book. Well, for years, like she would not release it because she was upset that people leaked it. And I mean, I
Well, it
understand as
was
an author.
someone she knew, if I'm remembering correctly. Like,
I don't
she was
remember.
giving out like, the draft copies to, like,
Yeah.
friends and family to read.
Yeah,
And
okay.
like, there was a personal dimension to that, like, just sort of sucked the wind out of her sails, from
Oh.
what I remember.
See, I don't
It's been
remember
a
that.
long time.
Okay, that explains it a little bit more, but for several years she did not publish it. And like everybody was like, well, I guess she's never going to publish this book. And when was it? Maybe like I don't know, it was more recent that she actually published the book. And I downloaded it and I read like the first few chapters and then I was like, I'm not interested anymore. Like if you would have published it back then, I would have read the whole thing. I would have bought it. I would have read it. And now I'm like, I don't care about it. Like, I didn't even finish the book because I was just like, the momentum was gone? I
Yeah.
don't know. It just, that kind of
Although
sucked.
that's a bit of a different issue because
Yeah.
you're not just dealing with like piracy, you're dealing with something like leaks are because you're dealing
Yeah.
with something coming out before it's ready. And
That's
a lot
true.
of artists are very particular about that.
Well, that is very true. You have a good point. Yeah. Because the book wasn't in its final form.
But like even when something is finished, if people get a hold of the like draft versions or the like
Yes.
any of the like like in video games early like beta demos and like artwork from before it was finished, like some people get like upset they don't want that stuff to release because that was just their idea stage and they only are interested in showing off the finished product, not the like steps that they're working through.
That's a very good point, and that's something that I think has to be considered as well because your book in the beta testing phase, if like you're saying, if that's what happened with Stephanie Meyer, is not the finished product. And it could totally change by the time you finish writing the book and you could go back
Mm-hmm.
and change chapter 1. And so that is a whole different issue and not necessarily piracy. But I guess what I was thinking of is like, why did you care so much? And I didn't realize that's what had happened. But all these years I was thinking like, why did you care so much that people loved your book that much they wanted to share it? But now that you give me the background, I understand it a little bit better. But at the time I was going like who cares? People want to read your book. Like just give the people what they want, you know? But that goes into another issue of like fans being so demanding and not really understanding the creative process and that whole thing. So that's a whole other issue. But I definitely understand it better now. But my whole point about all of this kind of stuff is I think the more people who have access to literature, music, art, the better. Like I don't know. I love the artists. Like I used to love was it Sublime who would do like free concerts everywhere. You know what I mean? Like I love bringing things to the masses, to the people who want to hear it and I think they appreciate it?
Yeah, and that has mostly been the case for music. I mean, arguably, radio was that before, but you
Yeah.
couldn't control what you listened to on the radio. So,
Right. Yeah.
like streaming is free with ads, and like effectively for most people who have an internet connection, that's a whole other thing. Is free these days,
Mhm.
which has brought on some challenges for artists, but also part of that's just like the business models of a lot of streaming services are such that they just pay really low to the artists.
Yeah. And to me, it's more exposure for the artists. Maybe they think differently. I mean, but in this time, like what we see currently, do you think that piracy is as big of an issue as it used to be? Or you think it's more of an issue?
I think there are numbers on this, but I'm not positive that it has gone down in the past decade or two,
Yeah.
like from where it was. like, part of it again, the like streaming is effectively just legalized piracy. Like, yeah, they do get a cut of it, whereas before they weren't, but it's still like through subscriptions and advertisements, but it's still like effectively free. And a lot of companies have figured out, like we were saying earlier, the best way to stop piracy is actually to just be more convenient. That
Right.
people will pay for that convenience. And I think, like, I don't know hard numbers, but I think in, like, with gaming, that it has gone down because of that. With, like, streaming has, for movies and TV has caused it to go down.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that because it's more available and it's more affordable. My issue is when they do all these price jumps and it may
Yeah.
be a few dollars a month every year or so. You know what I mean? They do a price hike and I'm like, you're starting to price people out of this service, and that's what I don't like. I understand, art or the production of art is very expensive and it takes a lot to make new content. Yeah, I get that, but like at what point are you just being greedy, you know?
And it's not just that, like, I do think, like, again, it's been a while since I've read about this, and I'm not sure how much hard data there is on this, but I think people have said that it's been going back up recently because of those factors, because, like,
Yeah.
not just price jumps, but there's been a lot more streaming services, like
Yes.
7 or 8 years ago, is when you start seeing this explosion in new, streaming services, whereas before there was, like, basically just Netflix and Hulu.
Right.
But now you've got, like, Amazon originals, Netflix originals, Hulu still around, and then, like, a bunch of other, like, they're
You
like,
have like
why sell our
Crackle
stuff
and
to, yeah, Netflix? Why
yeah,
not just.
Peacock. Right.
HBO has one,
Yep.
Warner Brothers has one,
Yeah.
Disney has their own now.
Yeah. And there was a couple of shows I really wanted to watch that were only on HBO Max. And I'm like, I'm not adding another bill. Like, I'm
Right.
sorry. Like, I'm not going to do it. So, guess what? I'm going to reach out to somebody and see if I can, like, either go to their house and watch it or borrow their login. I mean,
Well,
I'm not
like
hurting
we've
anybody.
established, that's not really piracy.
Well,
I
in
don't
my
think, at
opinion,
least.
it's not. Yeah, exactly. I think that's just a nice thing to do for other people. I don't know. I mean, I know. I wonder if I would love to talk to somebody who's like really adamant about, you know, anti-piracy stuff and see what their point of view is because I'm with you on this. I'm just like, who are we really harming here?
Yeah, usually to my understanding, it's either like it's stealing and stealing is wrong, or trying to
Yes.
argue for the harms. That, like, and any other argument to the contrary is like just an excuse for you to get free stuff
Yeah.
because you don't feel like paying.
Right. You know what? I really like free 99, okay? Like, I don't want to pay for stuff. I pay for enough, okay? I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know how people are expected to, dish out all this money just because they want to listen to music or they want to have a copy of that music. So, and in my case, like I said, when I'm flying, I really, I need to have something that I can listen to without streaming, and that has been a problem. So, I got to find creative solutions, and if it gets into piracy, so be it.
Well, if you got any old CDs
I
still, you could
do.
download those.
I tried that. I tried to do, upload them to my computer and then, get them onto my phone. I had a problem when I had iTunes,
Oh, huh.
doing that back in the day. And then I tried to transfer all of my iTunes over to, what was it that Samsung had? Keys, Samsung Keys. And now, like, Keys is gone. I don't even know what you're supposed to do now. So I just
Can
said,
you
forget
not
it.
get iTunes on a Android device?
Only certain music would come over. Only
Oh,
certain
huh.
file
That's
type. Like
weird.
it was really I've had struggles with this for years.
Yeah, huh.
Changing devices and like having stuff that I can actually listen to without streaming. So, and then, one of the other things is we get a lot of hurricanes and storms and stuff here where the electricity goes out and therefore my Wi-Fi goes out and therefore I have no entertainment. So I need to have some stuff that I can download and,
Yep.
not that that's a need, but it does help the nights go by when you have no electricity.
You could go old school all the time and get an old MP3 player.
That's what I need. I think I gave mine away a long time ago to
Yeah.
some kid, but I was like, I shouldn't have given that away. I should have kept it. But anyway, so
It's
yeah.
especially useful if you don't want to run the battery on your phone, you know?
Yes, that's another problem. Absolutely. I feel like I need that. Well, I will say though, it is more convenient because I had an old iPhone 3 and I would bring that on flights with me just to listen to music that I had downloaded. And so I had like
Mm-hmm.
my iPhone,
So
I
it was
had my
effectively an
regular
MP3
phone.
player.
It was, yeah, and it did get, it's more convenient just to bring one device, in wireless headphones. That's much more convenient than having to bring both. So, you know.
I don't know. That's not a problem to me. Like, I think having a second device is not a large device. It's not going to take up enough more space that you need to bring like another bag or anything. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's true, but I try to pack as light as possible. And so anything I can leave behind, I want to leave it behind.
Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, so that's my thoughts. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. That's been our adventure on the high sea, flying the Jolly Roger.
The Jolly Roger. Yes, absolutely. I love it. Arr, matey.
Yeah,
Nice
so
extending my
yeah,
pirate
that's
talk.
been some thoughts about piracy and other various diversions. Do you have anything else, or do you want to take us out?
I'll take us out. Well, thank you for listening. Feel free to pirate this podcast. We will not mind.
It's
But
free. You can't pirate it.
I know, which is my whole point. Like, things should be free. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you for listening and join us next time on Beach View. Bye.
Bye.